Hi, welcome to day 9 of the Dry Jam Plan. Today I want to talk about setting boundaries. When you decide to take a break from alcohol, it often shines a light on other people's drinking. I know when I used to go down the pub and I used to they tried to cajole me into drinking. They thought they were doing me a favour because they knew me as Drinking Carol, and they didn't feel comfortable because I decided and would tell them that alcohol wasn't good for me, that it was putting my weight on, I wasn't sleeping well, I was lacking in energy, and I really used to get so stressed and drink too much because I thought it helped with my stress when it didn't. And they would get on the defensive side, and I can see why, because if you are a drinker and you think drink and alcohol does certain things for you, and you've got someone saying, well, actually I don't believe that it does do what we think it does, then they can get quite defensive and they then start to question their drinking, which is not comfortable for some people. So when you tell people that you're not drinking, some people can look a bit strange at you, as if you've got two heads or something, because society portrays alcohol as this be all and end all. We use it to celebrate, to commiserate, to relax, for confidence, to help us sleep. We self-medicate with it around our emotions. Whatever emotions we're feeling, we'll use alcohol to deal with them. So society tells us and shows us in lots of adverts and magazines, online, on social media, even in our families and our friends and neighbours and people we work with, alcohol is just readily accepted as what everybody does. So when you tell them that you're not drinking, you might get some backlash. So setting boundaries is quite important, especially if you want to remain alcohol free through January. And it's helpful to let the ones that you love, the ones that you trust, the ones that you know will understand why you're doing what you're doing, and to have an open conversation. Because if you don't tell somebody what you're doing, they will dig you in the ribs for a drink, say, oh, come on, just have one. You can just have one, can't you? Whereas if you know what happens, if you just have one, you end up having 2, 3, 4, and before you know it, you're staggering home from the pub, or you're staggering up to bed, if your partner's feeling a little bit left out because you're not drinking anymore. Me and my husband met in a pub. We were big socializers. We used to go out on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and we had, quite a close-knit friendship with lots of other friends down at the pub that drank too. So it was part and parcel of us as a couple, because we drank together. In fact, you know what? I made my husband's drinking worse, because when I first met my husband, he used to have a few pints with the lads on a Friday night, and then he would have one bottle of wine on a Saturday night, and that would be it. He wouldn't drink Sunday, and then he wouldn't drink right through the week until Friday. In comes Carol, who drank daily, every evening, more or less, and used to crack open a bottle of wine, and we'd be sat watching TV or sat having dinner, and I would pour him a glass. And he got into a habit of drinking just as much as I did, which is not great for him. But then when I decided to stop drinking, thankfully, he cut back. He wasn't drinking as much. I used to sit there, obviously, and watch him have his bottle of wine over the weekend, which he still does have, and the odd beer in the week. But boundaries-wise, if you've got a partner that has really taken an issue with you not drinking, then having a sit-down, proper face-to-face conversation, and I'm sure your partner wants to support you, hopefully, in the decision that you've made to stop drinking. If not, and if they're giving you a hard time, then I'm afraid, to be quite brutal, it's a matter of grinning and bearing it, and just getting on with it and finding support in other areas, especially in communities. There's a lot of alcohol-free communities around. There's a lot of, this time of year, dry January communities around. I'm a Facebook user, so if you use Facebook, just Google or just look on Facebook for sober communities. Doesn't mean to say that you're going to be alcohol-free for the rest of your life. People hop in and hop out of these communities all the time. Just finding like-minded people just to help you get some support. And if you are still socialising and going down the pub, again, setting boundaries, telling people that you're not drinking. Now, you can tell them you're not drinking for lots of different reasons. You can come up with your own. The thing is to have a plan for when you go out. So when someone inevitably says, "Hey, Carol, are you not drinking?" I can say, "Well, actually, no, I'm just taking some time out, or I'm doing dry January, or, I've got a heavy day tomorrow at work, or, I've got a deadline to meet and I'm going to be doing some work and I really need a clear head for it." Whatever you want to say to that person that's asking, and just change the subject. If you listen back to my episode on socialising, it will really help you sort of come up with some strategies for when you go down the pub. And having boundaries, it's just making that decision, and making that decision for you, that no matter what, you are not drinking until the end of the month. And I think the more that you ingrain that into your head, so when that alcohol monster comes whispering in your ear saying, it's time for a drink. I had a conversation with a friend today who went for a job, didn't get the job, and automatically that little whisper came into her ear saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just let's have a glass of wine, you'll feel better." Because we automatically are wired into turning to alcohol. But if you put boundaries in place and you tell yourself, and I used to look in the mirror a lot and say to myself, "We're not drinking today, Carol. We're not having a drink at the weekend. We're going to really try hard to do this, and educate yourself," which is what you're doing, listening to the podcasts, and really set your mind on the reality is you are not going to drink until the 1st of February. Now, if you have a blip and you have a drink, it's not the end of the world. All you need to do is get back on the wagon, look back at why it was you chose to drink. What was it that triggered you? Was it a split decision to just think, "Oh, sod it, I'm just going to have a drink," and just reached for that glass, poured that drink and downed it before you even really thought about it? What was it? So going back and finding out what that trigger was and what that trip was. Some people just get rid of alcohol out of the house, full stop. My husband just buys his bottle of wine and his few cans of beer when he goes shopping, and it's in the house. But for me, I used to be in a wine club, so there used to always be alcohol around the house. I used to spend probably about £400 a month, if I think, on alcohol. So, you doing dry January as well, that's a great opportunity to save money. And maybe the money that you would spend on alcohol, maybe put it into a separate account. Or if you want to get the cash out, the cash machine, shove it in a tin and see how much money that you're saving. That's a great motivator. But as for boundaries, just be vulnerable and upfront with people and real with people if you feel confident enough to do that, because they'll really respect you deep down. They'll think, "Good on you," and a lot more people are more open to. The sober movement is like massive. It's really growing around the UK now, and a lot of people are choosing not to drink. Every day there's posts that I read and people that comment on my posts on social media that they haven't had a drink in weeks or months or even years. So people are just getting used to others not drinking. So set those boundaries. Let people know the reasons why you're not drinking. Plus, it holds you accountable too if you verbalize it. I didn't tell my husband when I first stopped drinking, because I'd said I was stopping drinking and I wasn't drinking Monday to Thursday. I'd said it so many times to him that I used to laugh, and he'd go, yeah. Okay, Carol, how many times have I heard that before? So when I first stopped, I didn't tell him for a couple of weeks. But it's always good to have accountability. So you set those boundaries and stick to them. We are, what are we, the 8th? And now it's the 9th of January. So well over a week now, and you got through your first weekend of January not drinking. And even if you did drink and have a blip, then I'm guessing you're back on the wagon again. Because if you've had 5 or 6 days without drinking and one blip, then it's still a win. It's still a win because you've gone 4, 5, 6 days without drinking and then you've just had a blip. So what? Learn from your blip, move on, and embrace your alcohol freedomness. That's not even a word, really. Through dry January. And I'll catch you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.